Welcome to Charity Therapy, the podcast where we explore the ups and downs of the nonprofit sector and answer your burning questions. I'm your host, Jess Birkin, owner of Birkin Law Office, and I'm excited you're here. Imagine hanging out with me and my super smart, funny nonprofit expert pals. You get to ask them anything about your nitty-gritty nonprofit life and get their wisdom for free. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just strapping on your nonprofit boots, we're here to share stories and remind you you're not alone on this journey. So get ready to join the conversation and bring me the tough questions. I ain't scared. Ready to rock? Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to this episode of Charity Therapy. I'm your host, Jess, and today I'm joined by another Jess, Jess Holst. Jess is an HR consultant with her company, Aligned HRC. Jess, thank you so much for coming on the show. You are such a badass. I feel like privileged to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Y'all, Jess and I met through some work we did and some networking. And let me tell you, when I looked this lady up, I was like, I'm scared to talk to her. She's worked at so many companies. You have quite the impressive resume. And so you're kind of the perfect person, I feel like, to come in and sort of speak to this question today that we have. And you work with a lot of small businesses. A lot of my clients are smaller nonprofits who only have maybe like a few employees, but are growing and expanding. And they find out real fast that HR gets complicated. What is like kind of one thing that you wish all smaller companies or nonprofits knew before they started hiring more staff?
I wish people knew how many fractional resources there are, that you don't need to have a full-time HR person. There are companies that you can reach out to and say, hey, what do I need to know here? And they will help you get set up. And that's all they need to do. There is an HR solution right now in 2025 for every size company. And it is such a cost savings and it will make your employees' lives better.
Yeah, and I think this is one of those things where I see a lot of nonprofits, especially, are just like almost like they don't feel like employment law should apply to them. Like the answer is often like, but we're a nonprofit. I'm like, yes, and an employer. So
It's true. It's true. And I think also a lot of our values are aligned with supporting workers. And a lot of the laws are actually designed to do that. But if you aren't following them, you're not actually supporting your employees.
yeah. So for everybody that's like, hey, we want to be a good place and offer a safe space and a fair living wage. You also got to do your HR right. So with that, I think like kind of let's get into the listener question for today. You ready? Ready to hear it?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Listener writes in, I've been the executive director of my organization for about 5 years. When I started, I was one of 4 employees. Currently, we have 8.5 full-time employees and are probably on our way to 12 full-time employees. Right now, I handle all the HR, payroll, and so on. That was fine at 4 or 5 people, but it's quickly becoming too much to manage. Takes a lot of admin time, and I know I'm making errors. One of my board members suggested a PEO. PEO is Professional Employment Organization, and it looks almost too good to be true. How do I know if this would be a good move for us?
That is such a great question. And it's a question many small businesses are asking. The upside of a PEO is the part you're not even worried about right now. It's your healthcare costs. The real
Yes.
upside of joining a PEO is that you get access to large group insurance. There are a lot more downsides, however, to a PEO. The reason for that is it assumes a lot of knowledge. To actually manage that system, there's a lot more that's still left on you. It's left on you to still do payroll, to still onboard and offboard people. And it assumes you have enough knowledge to know if the system's set up properly and if it's doing the things you're required to do. And I've seen some real horror stories. So a PEO actually wouldn't be my first place to go for a company in your position.
Let me say what I think a lot of nonprofits are thinking is that I thought that the PEO was taking care of the HR. Isn't that what they're doing? Because I feel like that is that feels like the sales pitch that the PEOs are making, is that you don't have to do HR. We're the employer. We'll handle the HR. And that feels like that's what the sell is. So can you kind of like, it sounds like you're saying that's not the case.
Yeah, that is the sell. It is, we will take care of everything. But what you find when you get to the fine print, which is the most important print of all, is that they will cover you and support you as a co-employer as long as you've done everything to the specific processes that they require you to do. And they're not always going to tell you what those are. Also, a lot of these
Stop.
yeah. Okay. So they're like, don't worry, we've got you. If your employee sues you, we're co-employers. We're in this together. Except they're going to first want to know, well, did you read the manual and did you do the first step, which was calling us to let us know that you'd had an initial concern and had you logged it the exact way we told you to? And a lot of times there's a lot of information that they don't give you and it protects them. And they can say, oh, yeah, no, we're out on this one because you didn't document it exactly the way our small print said. You didn't call us at the first sign of trouble, which to you wasn't really a first sign of trouble. So the problem is it looks really good because they are covering you under their EPLI, under their insurance.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of things they can decline to support you on, depending on how you've handled it. And the reality is you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know how you were supposed to handle it to begin with. And the other thing is a lot of these systems are really just tech platforms, which is great, but they're meant to be self-managed and they're meant to be self-implemented. So for example, there are things in one of these large PEOs that you're supposed to set up yourself. For example, compliance training. There is an expectation that you actually still know what compliance training is required in every state and make sure you've loaded it into the library for yourself so that you can set it up so that it can be kicked out to a new hire in that state. All of that is still on you in a PEO.
This is starting to maybe make some sense with the clients that I have who express frustration with their PEOs.
Yes.
Just saying. It sounds like I think we're all familiar with insurance being sort of like, hey, there was a hailstorm, my roof got damaged, and then the insurance company's like, yeah, maybe it did, but like actually, we're not going to cover that because it was a Tuesday in May or whatever. And so their sort of interest is in not actually covering things, which that feels bad because it feels like the sell is that we're going to help you manage everything better and take care of everything with you. So sounds like there may be a lot more due diligence that people need to have when they're considering a PEO around how do you make sure that we know what we're doing and how do you make sure that we know how to work with you so that we actually get the services that we were promised.
Yes, I would definitely recommend if you have a PEO now, have somebody come in and do an internal audit for you and make sure that it's set up properly. Really, some of the things that I've seen that were possible under a PEO are things that are as easy to avoid as paying under the minimum wage in a municipality that has its own minimum wage. And you should think that the technical system can avoid that, but it isn't set up to avoid it. And they don't have the internal checks and balances to make sure you're not doing those things. So it's really about your motivation. Why do you want to have a PEO? The number one good reason is large company healthcare.
Yeah.
Any other reason, it's likely not the best choice for you. Unless you have someone who can go in regularly, make sure that it's set up properly, make sure it's working properly. Because if you don't know what you're missing, you don't know.
So it sounds like a winning strategy would be, yes, PEO, because if we want to offer benefits and we're too small, because we all know benefits are insanely expensive for a small employer, but you also need to be able to attract talent if you want to have good people.
Yep.
So if it's like, yes, we need benefits, we're looking at doing a PEO, but the winning combination may be PEO plus a fractional HR person to make sure that everything is really set up right and that on your side, on the employer's side, you actually are having policies and procedures in place to execute things with the PEO in the best way possible.
And really look at the cost. So if your motivator is saving money on employee health insurance, look at what that PEO is charging you in admin fees, what it would cost to strip down to their least amount of support and add in just a few hours a month with an outsourced HR firm. You may find that you're saving money. So I just helped a company who moved off of their PEO. When we audited the system, we found all kinds of things that were wrong that hadn't been taken care of. And at this point, we've gotten them moving forward. They've got a great outsourced HR person who can onboard and offboard people. They have 5 hours of her a month at minimum. And they are now saving $1,000 a month. And so they can actually then take that money and put it towards employee health care. So you can spend money where you want to if you know what your options are.
Yeah, I'll say like the way that PEOs sort of get on my radar is people are trying to hire and maybe they have multiple jurisdiction employees
Yeah.
and the compliance around that is going to be insane. And so the PEO seems like a good solution for managing different jurisdictions. Like if you have an employee in Illinois, an employee in Colorado, an employee in Wisconsin, an employee in New York, you have to comply with all of those states, right? And so it seems like that's a good fit. And I've definitely told people to consider it. So this is good for me to know that, you really do need to also pair it with fractional HR.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also a good benefits broker is really underestimated. So, one of the first stops as you're thinking about all of this is talk to a good benefits broker who can tell you what is accessible to you at what price points so that you have that quote before you even look at the PEO, because that really is the big cost savings in a PEO. But the client that I worked with who just moved off the PEO had so many compliance issues, and the platform they are using is a big name platform, and they couldn't even get a live human being. They don't have a phone number to call. It took them 2 days to get their HR support. And for a mere 8 people, they were spending about $1,200 a month for that extra service, which is bonkers.
Yep. The other way this comes up for me is clients will say, well, we're having this issue and the PEO won't give us an answer because it's a lawyer answer. And then of course I
Yes.
have to tell them I'm not an employment litigator. And I definitely don't know anything about employment law in Tennessee. So let me get you a referral. But I think that's also another mistake that people make is kind of assuming that the PEO is going to be able to resolve everything for them. And obviously, even an HR manager is not an attorney. And sometimes you do need legal advice around employment law.
Yes. And when they'll only give you legal advice, you need actual best in class HR advice about what you can do in this situation. I've seen a lot of situations where people ring up their paychecks or Paylocity or whomever and talk to the HR person there because they have an employee issue. And that co-employer has a very different motivation than you do. You're concerned about your work environment. You're concerned about room to grow. You're concerned about impact on other employees. They are solely concerned about protecting themselves legally. They are going to have one line, one plan. And I've seen them take things that didn't need to be handled so mercilessly to that degree to protect themselves because that's what they care about. They don't care about your environment. They don't care about your culture. That is not their issue. So there are better ways to get that kind of support.
Yeah, interesting. So of the PEOs, I'm sure you've encountered lots of them over the years. Do you have one that you actually like?
No. And it's
Amazing.
I'm couching that because I'm talking to another one this week. I am forever
Not
in
yet.
my job, like
Not yet.
constantly sourcing. But it's because None of them are holding your hand. None of them are as proactive as they say they are. None of them take accountability for everything working properly. It's really about what problem do you want them to solve? And if you want an impactful HR system, this ain't it.
Okay, that's hilarious. You heard it here first, peeps. Jess Holst, anti PEO across the board. Oh, that's so
Don't
fascinating.
tell anyone.
I'm surprised there's not a company out there that has realized there's this gap in the market for like PEO plus outsourced HR, like fractional HR. That's silly that that doesn't exist.
Well, they have figured it out. They figured out that people want it. So they're selling it to people. They're just not giving them a good product because they're not dealing with educated consumers. So they're
Truth.
just selling you a bunch of snake oil. So, but also right now in a point in time, every single company is trying to reduce actual human contact and customer service and just saying AI can do it. And the answer is AI cannot do it.
No.
AI, not so much with the nuance of dealing with employment issues. And that's the problem. And hopefully there'll be a swing back in the other direction where people realize, oh, actually the real kind of competitive advantage here is having a human being on the phone. But for now, we're actually moving even further away from the kind of attentive care that would be an effective PEO.
So it sounds like your view is sort of like PEOs are software as a service, and
Mm-hmm.
software is not HR, and there's just not really software that's going to do a good job. So you're anti.
Yeah, it's software as a service with its own motivation.
Yeah,
They have an agenda and it is not your agenda. This is not to
right.
say you can't be really successful with a PEO. It could give you a lot of the things you need. You just need to make sure somebody has your best interest in mind when they are babysitting that system every few months and making sure that it's set up properly and working properly and that you have the information you need to be successful with it.
I love that. Who knew we were gonna have this take? I was so not expecting that. That's so spicy. I feel like, what are the takeaways here? I feel like the takeaways are the spicy hot take that PEOs thumbs down. And if you're gonna do it, really only do it because you're trying to incorporate health insurance at scale. That's truly, it seems like the only good reason to use a PEO is to access benefits. But even saying that, what I heard you say, which I think is a takeaway, is don't assume that's the best place to get benefits. Talk to a benefits manager first and really price
Yeah.
things out. And then I think finally, most small nonprofits that are growing probably need to start with fractional HR before anything else, is what I'm hearing. Did I miss anything?
No, and your last point is it. Make sure that someone's setting up a strong foundation for you. And you don't have to commit to them forever, but make sure that the foundation that you are building is going to hold up a structure that's going to grow.
Yeah. Well, I know that I have learned something today. I was not expecting to learn that. And so that is amazing. What a value bomb. Jess, seriously, thank you so much for being here and for joining me on the show. This was super informative. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you, learn more about your services? Where should they go?
Go to alignedhrc.com/charity therapy. I'm happy to help any organization figure out if they've got the right setup for them.
Right on. I think you're the first guest who's done like a direct link with the podcast name in it. Hats off. Y'all also need to know that like Jess is the consummate professional podcast guest because she was like checking her mic levels before we even started. So type A personalities unite. Listen, folks, if you enjoyed this show, do me a huge favor, share it with a friend. If you have a nonprofit that you're involved with that's got a PEO and no HR, maybe share this episode with them. Just saying, just saying. Food for thought. Leave us a rating, subscribe, and if you have a question or a story to share, or you have a spicy opposite take about PEOs,
Mm.
get after me. I won't let Jess Holst beat you up, I promise. Just send me a note at charitytherapy.show. And thanks as always for listening.